Now, ahead of the 2026 general elections in Benin Republic, a 12-member delegation from the Autonomous National Electoral Commission of Benin Republic was received earlier today by the chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, in Abuja. The delegation was led by the president of the Commission, the Electoral Nationale of the Republic of Benin, Dr. Saka Lafia. The team, which will be conducting the 3 elections within a period of 3 months, is in Nigeria to understudy INEC and take lessons in logistics and legal framework for elections in that country. Professor Yakubu had assured his guests of adequate support towards ensuring seamless electoral process in Benin Republic. And he said that they were in particular interested in the legal framework for elections in Nigeria, the design and the printing of election materials and forms, the recruitment and training of poll officials, the election budgeting, and the mode of payments to different service providers, security during elections, the use of technology, the accreditation of local and international observers, engagement with electoral stakeholders, and other aspects of Nigeria's electoral experience. And that was the part of the visit over at the INEC headquarters. And it looks that those that may say INEC are winning. If other countries have to look forward to what Nigeria can also do, it means that there is more wins in the international community, as Benin Republic electoral commissions and officers had to visit Nigeria to learn some lessons. Tonight, everyone, it looks that in all the political parties there are still talks and concern, and we may say early muzzle flexing of the 2027 politics. And now the APC and the People's Democratic Party appear to have kick-started a mind game over the 2027 election, most particular governorship election in the south part of this country. When we look at the chances, they are boasting of the chances in the elections and all of the concern. The PDP in Rivers State, for instance, has produced all the governors that have ruled the state since the restoration of the democratic rule in 1999, including the incumbent Governor Fubara, declared that the people of the state will have no difficulty in re-electing the governor. However, the APC are still having some concern about their recent victories in Edo and Ondo, even looking at the concern about the fact that they have captured Cross River State and other states, in respect to the southern part of this country. And they said they were ready to add Rivers State and others to the party fold. All of that has continued to spark concern. Just in a moment where those that really feel, what does APC really has to offer? What concern? How would they begin to look at capturing the whole of the south part of this country? It has generated heat over the weekend as APC are boasting of taking over all the southern part, all the southern state of Nigeria to their party. But let me bring you some good news for Yakubu Gowon. It looks that the president has actually renamed the University of Abuja earlier today during the Federal Executive Council meeting, honoring the former head of state and the ex-team elder statesman, Yakubu Gowon. These were part of the resolutions and recommendations made today at the Federal Executive Council meeting. And that's the reason, Mr. President, was also considered. It has also generated concern looking at the infrastructure of that university. Can the renaming of this university put things to shape in respect to that school? What difference would they make if they now have to rename the university from University of Abuja to Yakubu Gowon's University? But, well, that's a development coming from Aso Rock earlier today in respect to the Federal Executive Council meeting. Tonight, to discuss these issues of the early muzzles of 2027, I'm being joined by a former lawmaker and the chieftain of All Progressive Congress, Honorable Cletus Obun. Thanks so much, Honorable, for joining us again on Big Talk. The last time you were here, we had a lot of concern about political crisis in different political parties, where they were linking that to be the handiwork of your party. But it looks now, your party is so committed in getting the southern part of, the southern state. Would you say that if your party had won elections in Edo, have also gotten Cross River State, Is it enough to go back to sleep and feel that your party may win the 2027 election in this state?
Well, let me first announce the fact that APC is a progressive party and will not intend to turn Nigeria to a one-party state. But in doing so, we must have free and fair competition. We would like to compete. And when we win, we should be winning with happiness and with candor. And in the humility of doing so, we are not going to try to expire and extinguish opposition voices, because that is the ingredient, that is the major factor that stimulates political progress and development of any nation, the plurality of opinion and the democratic resolution of issues. That is what democracy and governance is all about. So in laying that foundation, when you begin to segregate and begin to suggest that APC is only interested in the South-South, I heard you talking about Rivers State. Also, don't forget that while we are giving Rivers State the kudos, and Delta State in particular also, that PDP has ruled in those two states, you will also counter that PDP has never ruled Borno or Yobe State. PDP has never ruled Borno or Yobe State as well in the Northwest, in the Northeast. So political traditions also determine the kind of...
Because these states are particular, southern state were particular PDP state.
This is what I'm saying.
So your party is trying to get...
The party is not trying. The party has striven over the years. Don't forget, I keep making this point. I am a foundation member of the opposition in southern Nigeria and in Nigeria as a whole. In Jigawa, in Kebbi, in Sokoto, in Nasarawa. We have all along, you will discover that when CPC won with Al Makura in Nasarawa State, it was unthinkable, it was unimaginable, it was a big surprise. You also will discover that even in 2023, NNPP didn't exist anywhere. And here they were, getting one of the biggest states. For the first time in Nigerian political history, you found a situation with the two determinant states that determine presidential elections. The winning party lost the two, Kano and Lagos, with 5 and 6 million votes. APC lost the two, even when the candidate came from Lagos. So that shows you the progression Nigeria is making politically and what the political culture and dynamics of Nigeria are manifesting. There are things you don't take for granted, and that's why political science is not a science of specificity. It is not a drastic art, and it's a science of specification. And therefore, in dealing with the South-South state and Southern Nigerian states, what you are seeing is that if you know our history, you will notice that even immediately after independence, what you call today South-South was under Eastern region. The states you are calling South-South today, which was then Bendel, which is Edo and Delta, Rivers and Bayelsa, and Akwa Ibom and Cross River. We are all in, apart from Bendel, which is Delta Edo, which were Northwest. They became a creation of a referendum, the first and the last to do so in Nigeria. I mean Edo Delta, Bendel State. They call them Midwest. And the core states, Calabar, Goja, Rivers, were making the same movement before the war broke out. So we need to get this foundation of our history to note that areas are which are by tradition progressive and therefore welfarist, and there are others that are heavily Republican. So the South-South poses for Nigeria a tripod upon which Nigeria's democracy must survive. And if you check again back down the line, you discover that most of those who have been electoral umpires come from what you know as the former Eastern region. So South-South is definitely going to progressively become APC, because traditionally they have been so.
Your party is becoming so unpopular when you look at when you put the scale and weigh the options of Nigerians in respect to how they are accepting your party, you understand that they feel that your party does not deserve to win any state. Concern about even the Edo recent election is still ongoing. They feel that your party are not popular. The policies of your party is dragging your party to the mud. The hardship of the 8 years of Buhari government have been transferred to the first 2 years of President Tinubu. So how can your party begins to still have what to campaign on? That's what the concern of Nigerians.
Well, those who are concerned about elections. If they are concerned about the progress of Nigeria, about the development of Nigeria and the well-being of Nigeria.
All these indices are lives of the people. I'm saying hardship, economic concern.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Those who are shouting about it and making it an issue are those who are looking. Let me tell you this. From 1999 to date, most of the time, policies are not taken because of the next election. Policies, if they were taken by today, will be curative, preventive. But today we are curing what has been inherited on account of inability of the courage of leadership to say this can stop. Every government that came agreed that there should be removal of subsidy. All. From PDP 16 years to this, they all agreed that they want the removal. But nobody had the courage because what was the mantra? The threat was if you put it, people will suffer and they will not vote for you. This president has come to say, don't vote for me as long as Nigeria will be strong and well. I don't care about it, but this is what will help Nigeria. Was it Babangida that said to you, and of course it is a historical fact, that it is better for you to take a decision that is wrong than to take no decision. That is a hallmark of leadership. Take responsibility for every action or inaction. You must take full and not to shift. Because however you look at it, there will be the consequences of vicarious responsibility. And there's the danger of procrastination. So at a moment like this, it is the courage of the leader that leads the people. When the dog allows the tail to wag it, it is the dog that wags the tail. The tail does not wag the dog. So if you allow the tail, which is the followership now, to start dictating on the basis of popularity, governance is not a popularity contest. It is about the welfare and well-being of people, the lives of human beings.
So how would you judge the life of the people, the life of Nigerians currently?
As we speak,
inflation has, hitting up deeply into the country.
It's 33%. But I asked
compared to you said 20%, 25%, and all of that.
Let me say this to you. What you are getting here are temporal pains of a pregnancy, of a delivery.
For 18 months.
18 months is too short for the life of a nation. You could not have lived for 64 years with a crisis for 64 years.
The president has said, I will hit the ground running from.
And he's running. First, he removed and he's giving the cushioning effects, which all of you will agree. Nelfund, for example, to take the burden of children going to school or leaving school, he brought in Nelfund. You are seeing how he's now trying to prevent small businesses, which constitute over 90% of Nigeria's economy, and say to you, this category of person, if before today, if you can make 25 million profit a year, under 25 million, you are not supposed to pay taxes. He has moved it to 50 million. He has said to you, if you are dealing with food items, which is a major crisis for Nigeria today, food crisis, you will not be paying any tax or VAT, value added tax. He's doing all that within this 18 months you are talking about. Within 18 months, you are forgetting that Abuja, most people who left Abuja here in January this year, coming back now are missing their way. On my way to this place, we had to turn here about 3 times because we could no longer find those physical landscapes that are changing. People are not looking at them. I'm asking you today, you remember immediately the Nelfund, the student loan form came out. One region of the country, the South, is said, look, we are not included because our students are not being taken, they are not given the loan. They are not saying they were not giving. They said they were giving, but their region was not. And the NBS brought out statistics and say, this is the portal. How many from your region has applied for this loan? Again, they now shifted back, and within 1 month, when that was popularized, look at the figures. Over 44,000 in a month did that for Southeast. That is for students' loan. Then we come to infrastructure. For example, look at the Calabar-Lagos route. It's already on. I'm sure if your reporters will show to you, apart from the hiccups of compensation and people crying out, otherwise they hit the ground running. The construction work is already on. Contracts have been awarded. Initially, there were stultifications and people trying to distract attention by saying that the contractors were either related to one person or the other. All that has been swept under, and the Minister of Works is at it. Now look at your electricity and power generation. The tariffs came on. This president was told these tariffs are going to affect you. What is band A? What is band B? What are the tariffs about? The debate is on. The tax reform debate is on to say who should be included and how far. So all this, you cannot say in 18 months nothing has happened. It's cynicism to say so, and it's distracting because the courage that this president has, and this party in particular, has brought, because the party is now asking questions. This is our manifesto. Governors, you must live up to our manifesto. President, you must live up to our manifesto. So there's check and balance.
The fear of every Nigeria in as much as some of these reforms, as you've argued, is for the better of the future of this country, that those are really having a concern about how realistic can we get this done, because we've seen past government also having to put all of that blame. But let's get to go on a quick break, everyone, and once we return from the break, I'll continue that conversation. Do stay with us. Early measure flexing of 2027, I mean, it is still a major concern in respect to the current state of the nation, which it looks at every political actors, commentators that are really having some contributions to all of the happenings in this country are likely linking all of that to 2027 politics. There have been several calls and concern about the policies and the reformation of this government on the lives of the people. And here we must also start making some conversation about 2027. What is the place of the people? What is the place of Nigeria in all of this? I still have Honorable Otun still with us on the program. There have been a recent call on former President Goodluck Jonathan to return back to the presidential race. That those that feels that he has all what it takes. He has the experience and all of that concern. Probably they may be linking that to John Mahama of Ghana, who have just staged a political comeback, because they are still in dire need. They feel that if the government, the past 8 years, have promised change, but could not in any way deliver very touchable and impactful change, that those that are still afraid that if all of these reforms of government, that it might end with more hardship to Nigerians. This is the reason and the affairs that there's no sustainability culture in Nigeria, that sometimes government comes in and the other government gets to also plan its own ideologies, reformations, and all of this concern. World Bank have given a projection that we need about 15, 20 years for whatever we've started, to really have result. Are you not afraid that if we must put the lives and the Nigerian people on this pedestal, it might look that it's just waiting for nothing?
First, the only sustaining ingredient in a man's life, and like the life of a nation, is hope of better days. When that hope is lost, you cease to live. If Nigerians are giving up so terribly and desperately to feel that they have no tomorrow, then they have no business living. Then they are agents of suicide. And I don't think there are many Nigerians like that if you go to the streets. There are parts of this country today who know nothing about what you are discussing because they are living their lives having accepted that coming from here is a blessing and not a curse. I can give you statistics and show you energy. As I speak to you now, on the 27th of this month, my community where I come from, having waited since the creation of the world for governments to intervene in providing them with an access road, have decided among themselves, the youths have come together to say, we shall contribute money and support the state government or go get our road done. That is the Nigerian spirit. That is the spirit of development. But the constant throwing up of hands and looking at government as a messiah. Government is to guide you, actualize your potentials. Government cannot on its own make it. So it is creating the enabling environment for human potential to be executed and consummated. That is what makes government relevant. Otherwise, every man to himself will make the world a stage for anarchy, a zoo. Therefore, in the context where we found ourselves today, it is only proper that Nigerians, especially those who have advantages, this afternoon, in this same country where you are talking about people having money, government not doing this, not doing that, people on a daily basis. Only yesterday, you heard about somebody having 753 houses, estates, not houses, estates.
Under your party's watch.
No, when you say under your party's watch, what you are suggesting is that our party is in everybody's pocket. See the few that were brought out. Ethnic and religious coloration was introduced into the defense, was coming into their defense. Nobody was talking about the money and the people that were suffering. They were talking about how the man is a Christian or Muslim. They were talking about where he comes from and not what. So the coloration, I think it was Penny Jackson, a columnist with Vanguard in those days, who wrote about corruption. That the noise about corruption is equivalent to the closeness of the person who is keeping the money, who stole the money, and the person who is shouting. That is to say, the closer you are to benefit from the person who has stolen money, the lesser your voice and the lesser the shout. The farther you are away from benefiting from that stolen money, the louder you shout. So what we are experiencing in Nigeria is that there must be a reorientation about public funds as nobody's funds. And when you say over your watch, I was just reading a 2017 report, a 1983 report, in which a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was telling Nigerians that they are not hungry because they are not yet eating from the dustbin. A minister of the Federal Republic. In 1985, another minister told us that telephone is not for everybody. A minister of the Federal Republic told Nigerians that in 1985. Again, only recently, with the phrase of let the poor breathe. Let the poor breathe over electricity tariff. In all this, you find that between the citizens, the governed and the government, there must be always a synergy and an agreement about what is modest and what is correct. So it is unfortunate that at every time we are talking, we talk with despondency and say there is no hope. Nigeria has so much hope, and whatever we are having today, please compare yourself to the rest of the world. You are not living in an island. The rest of the world is going through the same throes. They don't throw up their hands on the call. In fact, if you remember, it was Babangida in 1987 or thereabout, who called on Nigerians to contribute, like Aton Zeribe, as at that time contributed 75 million naira to the Nigerian government to see Nigeria go. When Nigeria, the president, a military administration, cried out that Nigeria was broke and can no longer run itself. Nigerians from in and out of the country, rich and wealthy Nigerians, because you should agree with me that some Nigerians are wealthier than this country, just like every other place in the world. Some Nigerians are wealthier than this country genuinely, not with stolen money. They are not even in government. They've never been in government. You can name them. I mean, you are finding a Dangote refinery.
We're having lesser investment. If we have all of that.
Dangote alone has built a refinery that no country on earth has built. Is that in doubt? Is that not verifiable? Is he a Nigerian?
How much life would that affect?
How many people are going to be employed?
Fuel is still high because of those I said if we had Dangote refinery, but that's not really the convention.
No, it is part of the indices you must use to judge. If the environment is not good enough, nobody will come and put his money in a country that is not stable. The country that is not safe.
You feel that we are having good business environment in this country? Are you satisfied with the state of it? Because some businesses are folding up in this country. Some entrepreneurs are having it difficult after 1 or 2 years to operate. Because of materials and all of that is still on the high side. The inflation is affecting that.
Is it the first time? How many acquisitions have we got between Land Rover, Toyota, and there have been such acquisitions? They are not a Nigerian phenomenon. Anywhere in the world, such transactions occur. Businesses fold up according to seasons, and each epoch has its own crisis.
Honorable, do you admit that in all of these recent reformations and policies is affecting the popularity of President Tinubu? Because it looks that some part of this country, they feel that the president is not carrying everybody along, he's not doing the right thing and all of that.
I want to know that section of the country so that we can discuss in specificity which part of the country feels it's not carried along.
They said he's running a Yorubaization government, appointment, one-sided, policies not really to the interest of the people. We wish you have addressed that. But in terms of unifying this country, there are those that feel that he's running a one-sided appointment.
Oh, okay. Now, let me give you statistics. There are appointments that are statutory and legal, which you cannot change. There are others that are political. For the political appointments, you will agree with me that it has become a near convention in this country. And of course, it is natural. Trump is facing it now. He's bringing appointees that even his own party members are against and feeling that they are too skewed and too close to him. Nobody brings a stranger to run government with him. You bring those you are familiar with and whose capacity you can vouch for and can go to sleep with and say, if I bestow this on this man, he will do it. Nobody brings a stranger in the name of government to do that, because once failure comes, he takes full responsibility. That's why I told you from the beginning that the hallmark of leadership is taking responsibility. You don't say, oh, it is my minister that did that, or it is my DG or executive secretary that did that. You take full responsibility for every misbehavior of your appointee, because it's only your representative. You are surrogate. So if that is it, you delegated your powers to a person that you didn't know, and you want people to pity you or sympathize with you, that is wrong governance, that is wrong leadership, and that is wrong-headed argument to make. Therefore, if he now takes those he knows, and you will agree with me that he did not just know them, most of them have been proven. Most of his commissioners became governors in their state. They are not even from Lagos, as we later all discovered. Most of us thought it was bringing Lagos boys, but we discovered that most of them are not even from Lagos. He only discovered their talent and utilized them, and they performed. And today they become some of our reference points in Nigeria and models of how to run a government. Is it Fashola you are going to talk about? Is it Fayemi of Ekiti, who lost election after first tenure and came back and his people re-elected him? Was it Tinubu that brought him there? So when we are talking about people not being taken along, first, constitutionally, every part of the country and every state is entitled to a minister. That is a constitutional matter. Which state in this country will say today that they don't have a minister? Some even have 2 or 3.
In some critical appointment that those that supported President Tinubu, they are not happy about all of that appointment.
This is something that I can tell you offhand. I'm never afraid of saying so. Some appointments are strange to us in the party. I am one of those who is complaining that most of the people are here played in bad position whom we never cited in the process of baking this bread, baking this cake. We never cited them. And if it is competence, we are saying, put us to the test and see how competent or incompetent we are, those who actually worked and have something to add, value to add to this government and to this country. We have enough of such people, and we are saying, you don't bring at this point total strangers. That's why I was laying the foundation. You don't bring those whom you didn't meet and suddenly discovered they are technocrats or they are bureaucrats or they are what. We have every one of these within the context of our own, within the context of the party.
So in the context of the team selection, are you really satisfied about the composition of the team selection of this government?
I have said to you that most of the people are playing off their position and are unknown quantities and have demonstrated that they have no business being ministers or even DGs. There are some of such people in this government. And of course, you remember, initially, after 1 year, we gave a critique, even within the party. And we did so publicly. And the president responds. That's the great thing about this president. He takes responsibility and listens. On each occasion, party members have come out to say, this is wrong. Look at the governing councils of the universities, colleges of education and polytechnics. There was an outcry that they were not constituted, and running universities or polytechnics or tertiary education in Nigeria without governing councils was unconstitutional. And then he composed the team within 1 week after that outcry. The list was so bad that it was so skewed, and we felt that it was wrong to allow him to continue like that. And went and told him, your Minister of Education is a problem, because he couldn't have brought out this kind of list in which some states like Oyo had 1 person, Cross River had 6, and then some states had 40, 42 names on the list out of 555. So we got that, and the president responded within 24 hours, and that's why you saw peace. Again, in different areas, look at the selection of ministers and all that. Places like Cross River are still weeping because we had 2 substantive ministers. Now we have a minister of state. Such skewed arrangements cannot be bringing us peace. We cannot say at this point that Cross River State, for example, is not shortchanged.
Does it mean that there are people that didn't work so much, but they are eating so much in terms of preferences in the government today?
Yes, I have made the point that we worked like elephants and are eating like ants. I have made that point, and I'm not backing down on that. It is not politically correct. It is morally wrong, and it is democratically dissatisfactory and objectionable.
Does it speak to the inclusivity nature of the president?
The president is very inclusive, if you ask me. What we are saying, the exclusion of those who worked does not amount to exclusion of certain section of the country deliberately to make them feel that they are not part of the Nigerian nation and the democratic process. That I have not seen. What we are only saying is that there is enough to go around, but that some people who made no contributions, they should be NCNC now, no contribution, no chop. You cannot come and begin to feast on a meal prepared by another person. Other people prepare everything and bake the cake, and when it is on the table, you start taking them out. So we are saying, bring in more persons who did this job and who know what to do and can contribute. We are not saying just bring anybody for patronage. Bring competent persons. We say we have them. We have them state by state, local government by local government, zone by zone.
In respect to 2027, there are recent move, political merging intentions, a Labour Party considering this and all of that. Is your party afraid of all of this move by some big wigs of other parties?
Well, like I said, it is not the ambition of APC to turn Nigeria to a one-party state. That will no longer be democracy. That will no longer be plural democracy we fought for all these years. And if we wanted a one-party state, we would have accepted the 2 parties that Babangida brought, SDP and NRC. Nigerians decided to go for plural democracy, and which is multi-party democracy, multi-party system. So if we have chosen that, it is our duty as government to do so, but it is also part of our duty as party. Government is different from party. Once you are elected, you become a national asset, but the parties must continue to contest. Contestation is at the root of all political parties. So it is part of our duty to ensure that we weaken our opponents, just like it is their duty to also weaken us. I have made this one, some people misunderstand it, and they go on social media to say that I'm asking for a one-party state. I have maintained that once you have a one-party state, it's a recipe for disintegration. Nigeria is too sophisticated for a one-party state. So you don't go and start behaving like Cameroon, and then behaving where one president sits for 49 years. It doesn't just work with Nigeria. It cannot just gel, and it won't stand. So for me, one-party state is out of the question, but weakening other parties is part of our duty as a political party. Government is to stabilize. Immediately after the winning of election, I ask you in Kano, for example, we won election, we were cheated and felt cheated, went to tribunal, tribunal obtained the election and gave to us. If the government of the day was not a democratic one, a fair one, we would have won in the court because it now required the pronouncement of a court. But we lost in court after winning in the tribunal. Is that not to show you that this party and the national chairman is from Kano was just the immediate past governor? Is that not democracy? Is that not democracy in action? How else do you demonstrate it for an MNPC, a political party that didn't exist? Where did they have the structure to do that, to pull that through? No Nigerian is talking about that and giving credit both to the national chairman, Alhaji Ganduje, and the president of the country, who sat and presided over that case and saw that it went through the normal processes. Nobody is talking and giving credit for that. And every other thing that we are talking about is how INEC is this, how the government is this, how APC is that. We have created enough space and have demonstrated that we like competition, because fair and square, we can beat any party today, because the rest of the parties, especially those in PDP, I see you putting APC side by side with PDP. PDP is populated, and as its acronym stands, PDP, persons displaced from politics.
Is that the description of the PDP?
Yes, that is where it is now.
This is a major opposition we have in the country.
Because
they have been in power. They have been in power for over 16 years.
It is in tatters. PDP is in tatters, and we are sympathizing with them. We are trying to help them regroup and get pockets of places so that
they are saying that they are getting back to us of 2027. That Kuma was saying that the North should continue to support President Tinubu, and Atiku said, "It's not so. I'm coming back. I'm likely coming back. Or the North will take its place for 2027."
It is
that we've had more Southerners as a president than the North.
It is easier for Satan to plead with God and return to heaven than for PDP to return to power in Nigeria. It is
if you feel that if PDP brings out Atiku again with all of the popularity and many times he has contested, just like former President Buhari, he likely feel he might not win the election?
First of all, he will be dislocating Nigeria if he attempts to contest. Not talking about winning, because winning is out of the
How do you mean by
contesting is in itself an aberration and vexatious. It is provocative, because Nigeria has come to the understanding that we must rotate the presidency. Unofficially, unconventionally, and unconstitutionally, Nigeria have come to understand that part of our polity. So his continuous insistence on contesting is what makes him more and more unpopular. And I think Atiku is for us a paradigm, a paradox of how not to play politics.
Do you feel the Northerners may not back Atiku?
They cannot. If they can, he has contested election thrice. He couldn't, at a point, he couldn't even win the primaries against a Southerner, a Southern Christian. Because it looks
like some Northerners are not happy with the government.
They may not be happy with him on account of the misunderstanding. I give you as a reference point the tax law. People stood on the floor of the National Assembly condemning the law they never read and never heard. They just got the feeling that it was against the law, because once you mention tax, it means people are going to pay, without knowing that the taxpayers in the North, especially the informal sector, was going to be free from the tax net. They never read it. When they read it, as we speak today, are they discussing that? That's no longer the topic for discussion. Those are the things we are using to gaslight the system, blackmail the president into silence, and make policies of that nature that are of national interest to be sidetracked, and in order for them to continue. They that we are talking on the floor of that Senate, most of them have not paid taxes in the last 20 years. Yet, people who are selling sugar cane in Maiduguri Urban Market on Baga Road, those who are selling in Geshua, spare parts in Geshua, in Yobe State, those who are selling in Ariaria Market, Ogbete Market in Enugu, those people pay taxes through their nose. The woman from Vandikia who is carrying groundnut on her head pays a ticket before she can even walk into the market, carrying groundnut on their head. These are the people the Tinubu administration tries to free from the tax net, so that they can now have a living wage and a living income and a means of living from aching out their lives in their farms. These are the people that are trying to free. But the people who are not paying taxes, who ought to be paying, if a man can buy a car for 160 million and pays no tax, pays no duties for it because he has a title, yet the spare part dealer in Kadarko is the one who pays the heavy taxes for going to Makurdi to go and buy spare parts and bring to Lafia. So these are the people that are trying to, the president is now trying to free from taxes in order that he will have disposable income and free the economy. This is going to take time. No pill that heals or cures is ever sweet. Every pill, every drug that is sweet is a sophomore, sends you to sleep. And when you go to sleep, you know what that means. You are about to forget your focus and you lose focus about everything. So no sweet pill ever heals. It rather sends you to sleep. But bitter pills cure faster. So when we are getting this bitter pill, the pangs of birth of a new Nigeria, of a renewed hope, of renewing our hope in the Nigeria that we are talking so
sometimes provide food when we are giving the pills so that the person can have
precisely what we are doing by the kind of things you saw, the palliatives you are talking about that are not enough.
It has not gotten down to the grassroots. I mean, those are the same question that those that are holding some of these palliatives.
Precisely again, is that a presidential crisis? It is a basis of trust.
But the government should have the government should have had a proper plan of implementing some of these ideas.
Who else can implement better than the people living in the grassroots? You give a chief, you give a councillor, you give a federal house member, he goes to relabel it and keep it to win the next election by relabeling federal rights as his personal contribution to the community. the president at this stage, the only thing to do is the community policing. That is, the community on its own should at this time police their own people who are doing this to them. You elect a person to come and bring you palliatives, to come and bring you succor, and it turns around to become your albatross.
That can only work when the people and the government are working together, but the disconnect between what the government are doing or whatever they are distributing to what the people are aware.
Please, there is an announcement constantly on the air telling you and announcing what has been sent to you. It took a federal house member in Edo State on national television to say that this is what the president gave us, 600 bags of rice to give to my constituency. 360 constituencies. If you have that, you should know that it's a humongous budget on its own. That was rice alone. Only one person could come out to tell us.
But we cannot continue to feed Nigerians on rice. Many have said rice cannot
sustain. It's a short-term thing. It's a short-term thing. You are saying, for example, you want to give a child drugs, and you say don't give him the food you have in the house until you go and bring him Indomie from the market. And you have Gary here for him to sip. You said, no, why should you give somebody who's taking drugs? Why should you give him Gary? This is what you are saying. It's degenerating into cynicism. When you degenerate into cynicism, no country grows on the basis of that kind of bitterness. Until we open ourselves and say, let us take, all nations are built from the family, the nucleus of the family. It's a nucleus of the family, the values of the family that will translate into public life. When you don't have that, then the country is gone. And that's why in America you see presidents do state of the nation addresses on family values, on primary schools, and because that's where life starts. That is where the nation building art starts. Not the act. The art of nation building starts from the children, because they are the ones who are going to be senators tomorrow, presidents the next day. They are the same people. So you start from them. Once they have the right orientation, all that is cancelled. So I want to plead with Nigerians to look at the positives that we are getting into and to cooperate with government as much as possible, because what you are calling government is less than 1% of the 250 million people that we have in Nigeria.
They also have the power and the capacity to ruin the life of the rest 99.
But I can tell you that the other 99 can also ruin their lives and make the place ungovernable.
The next election, but Nigeria they have to survive to the election.
You don't need to wait for an election. This is the mistake we are making. You are moving on the road, and then you see a convoy of a senator driving on the wrong way, and you now say because he's carrying police, he will kill me. Are you living a life? Is your life normal? Must you be alive to be a slave in your own country, to be a refugee in your own country, to be a second-class citizen? Is it better to be alive than to challenge that system? They tell you clearly, there is an act of the National Assembly saying you cannot smoke in public. And you and I in this street, and somebody comes here puffing a cigarette. And when you look at his agbada, you now imagine that he has a right to do that brazenly. And you're asthmatic, or somebody here is asthmatic, and you now blow your smoke in an open space, you reverse the law because you have powers, and nobody challenges that. As long as we are not ready to challenge those systemic aberrations, we are now ready to be slaves and second-class citizens. We must have to rise to the occasion to take citizen action on every occasion. We've seen people do that in this country. In Calabar, I saw some naval officers wrap up a lawyer, and of course, he went to court and made so much claim, they paid him so much compensation for it. So I imagine that Nigerians must get up and rise to the occasion of civil rights.
All right. Issues of civil rights, look at the defamation of a lawyer and human rights activist, which is still a very big trial with a senior advocate of Nigeria, Febiola, is still a very major concern. But, well,
it is, because they are both lawyers. That case in particular, I want to see the end of it. Because when you hear the two sides, none of them is a small lawyer. Elder lawyer, not more serious than Pharaoh Moti. All of them are lawyers and they are in court. And I want to see that court matter go on. The use of force, arm twisting, or by arresting and detaining a person for mere defamation. He carried no arms. So how he becomes an offense for detention is what I am curious to know about. And I want to see how this lawyer will do what has been happening to ordinary citizens by saying to them, that case of detention, wrongful detention, he must prove a case of wrongful detention while the case of defamation is going on.
Very lastly, if you said power must be, return in the South for 2027, and Jonathan and some PDP and some members of Nigerians are saying that they are calling on Jonathan, would you feel that it might be very destructive to your party or your president, Tinubu?
Jonathan has a name now that he can rely on until God calls him to glory. If he attempts to run that election, he's demystifying himself and bringing himself from his Olympian heights into the murky waters of Nigerian politics. He has no business contesting an election, and nobody should delude him into coming to contest election. What he is today is better than being Nigerian president for the rest of his life.
Wouldn't it be just for him to complete his tenure? If what is good for the government is also good for the government.
Politics is not just for completion of tenures. People have done 6 months in office and we still remember them till today. Murtala Mohammed is one of them. How long did he stay in Nigeria?
The reason why they are saying that is because they feel that life was better under Jonathan compared to what we are having today.
Please, you must put it in context, economically speaking. That is to say, for example, that we were at that time getting what we call excess crude. Nigeria was producing 2 million barrels of oil a day without refining. Nigeria had anticipated at that time in the budget, if you go and look at it, was $65 per barrel. We were getting 115. The lowest we got was 100, $45 extra. Okonjo-Iweala, coordinating minister, insisted that that money should be put into what she called sovereign wealth fund for a rainy day like this, so that Nigeria will not go borrowing and will not go bankrupt. Okonjo-Iweala is still alive. Her books have spoken about this. We did not save. Governors of Nigeria, 36 of them, cooperated across different parties. ACN in Lagos, ACN in Edo, AMPP in Yobe, all cooperated on account of sharing Nigeria's commonwealth. And they went to the Supreme Court to say that sections of the Constitution must be obeyed, which says that all revenues accruing to the federation account should be shared to the federating states. And they went ahead and shared that money like robbers on the streets. And when that happened today, we are now seeing what Okonjo-Iweala advised us against. You are saying that my salary is 30,000, it's 70,000 today, and my children are going to go to school, they will need 35,000. So I will be left with 35,000 to run my home in case my wife delivers or anybody is sick. I'll use him. Christmas is coming. I'll use a balance of 35,000. And government now adds 30,000 to you, have 100,000. And you turn around to have no rice for Christmas for your children. And you are rationalizing it and comparing it to a man who was expecting 70,000 and is being paid 30,000. This is what happened to this government. Remember, when, for example, Buhari came in, when this government came in, Nigeria is producing less than 1.4 million barrels of oil today, as against 2 million as at 2015. So we were dealing with excess and had to manage the excess. Rather than do that, we've removed oil subsidy, pushed money to the sub-nationals, the states. Nobody is asking the states, what are you doing with the money? You are busy asking the president because you are afraid the governor will come to your house in your village. So it is Tinubu that you cannot see easily, that you must have to harass on social media and call him names. But he has shown you through his federal minister of finance on a monthly basis what he pushes to the states in excess of what they were getting as a result of excess crude. So who should be held accountable for such things? There are state house assembly to do the checks and balances in the state. There are security agencies, there are civil society groups. What is their duty? Why is it only the federal government that we are looking at?
Federal government took the policies, took the decisions of removing subsidy, floating naira.
Yes, and they brought out the money and said, this is the money we have got. We cannot go to the streets and start sharing to Nigeria.
The government has said, when we remove subsidy, we'll rather build an infrastructure, we'll develop this, we'll develop that.
Which is what is happening.
They have not paid attention to all of this. So we cannot really say, this is where they have paid attention to.
I have counted for
away from including allocation to state.
You forgetting the Sokoto Badagry, you are forgetting Calabar, they are ongoing projects. Is it the rail you want to talk about? Is it look at the reconstruction of roads that is going on?
All right.
More than 124 of the roads across the 6 geopolitical zones. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see the loans that are given to students so they can no longer go out of school. You're not seeing that. You are not seeing the play down of the security situation and the war theater in Sokoto that has reduced the banditry.
Today is not the day for manifesto. We will be back to a lot of that. But the main concern is that life get better for many Nigerians as a lot of confusion about 2027 might be ongoing. There must be consideration that government exists for the people, and the people must feel the impact of every government. Well, everyone, that was Honorable Cletus, a former lawmaker, a political commentator, and a chieftain of All Progressive Congress, speaking to us tonight on these issues. We do hope to also have a balanced conversation and right of reply from our People's Democratic Party and other political parties on this subject matter about the early muscle flexing towards 2027 politics. My name is Erika Michael. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. See you again tomorrow.